What does that mean? Does that mean? Good evening. It's Thursday, January 9th, 2025, 6 p.m. This is the City of Franklin Plan Commission. Mr. Martinez, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Nelson.
Here.
Commissioner Shago is excused. Commissioner Haley.
Here.
Alderman Day is excused. Commissioner Leon.
Here.
Commissioner Peck.
Here. Excellent. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to item B, approval of minutes. B1, approval of the regular meeting minutes of December 5th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Move to pass. Second.
First and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, Mr. City Attorney.
I understand that with a bare quorum present, including the presiding officer, that the presiding officer will be voting.
I will be voting. We had a first and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. B2, approval of the regular meeting of December 19th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
First and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Letter C is in Charles, public hearing business matters. So we'll start. I'll read the first part, then I love when you guys do this, how you put this down. This is wonderful. So Marion's got the first one. So, number one, Croatian Soccer Natural Resource Special Exception, NRSE, for proposed impacts to wetland setback for the installation of lighting poles upon property located at 9100 South 76th Street. Text key number 884-9995-000 and 884-9996-000. Ms. X.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to canvass the specifics of the application briefly, and then I'll read the public hearing notice. So this is a request for an exception to our natural resource standards, the UDO Part 4, for Croatian Soccer, which is on property that's zoned P1 Park. There's 2 lots that are part of the development, and we review them together, but I will note that the request is specific to the southern parcel, and because there's separate parcels here, there's a request being made of Plan Commission to allow for mitigation on a different lot. So the UDO requires that. There's a mitigation area that's on the north lot, while the request for impacts is on the south lot. So the applicants are requesting to install 7 light poles out of a total of 19 that they would like to have on the site, permanent lighting for the southern soccer fields. So let's get my detail here. So the 7 light poles are green on the exhibit. They're located within the wetland setback, that 20-foot area outside of the wetland buffer. But because they are a permanent encroachment into that area, they require this NRSE. So the applicants proposed mitigation in the existing wetland buffer area to the north. This is part of a previous NRSE. There was an NRSE on this lot for encroachments into wetland buffer and setback related to proposed stormwater facilities in a turf field. And the mitigation area is this area here in pink. The total permanent impacts are relatively small, so they're just proposing to expand this area a little bit. So the request to have this off-site, though, the UDO, if you are not doing mitigation on the same lot under the current ordinance, Plan Commission must authorize that mitigation off-site. So this item was presented to the Environmental Commission last night at a special meeting of that body. They recommended approval, and there is a copy of their draft recommendation in your packet. They did not propose changes to that recommendation. One member of the public spoke positively for the application at that meeting. The applicants are here. If you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, and I'll read the public hearing now. So This is a notice of public hearing for the City of Franklin Plan Commission on Thursday, January 9th, 2025 at 6 o'clock PM in the Common Council Chambers at Franklin City Hall, 9229 West Loomis Road, Franklin, Wisconsin 53132. The proposal is an application by Freddie Janney of Croatian Eagles SC, and the subject properties are 9100 and 9140 South 76th Street, zoned P1 Park District. Tax key numbers 884999500 and 884999600. The requested special exception is to allow natural resource, or is a special exception to natural resource features provisions for approval to place 7 lighting poles in wetland setbacks. The public hearing is being held pursuant to the requirements of Section 15-90110, applications for special exception to natural resource features provisions, and Section 15-100208, special exception to natural resource feature provisions of the City of Franklin UDO, a map showing the full property affected. Legal description and application supporting materials are available for review and may be obtained from the City Council by way of request to the Department of City Development here at Franklin City Hall, same address during normal business hours. The public is invited to attend the public hearing and to provide input.
Thank you and well done. It is 6:07 PM. I'm going to open up the public hearing at this time. Anybody wishing to speak on this, please state your name and address for the record. On this item alone is what you would be speaking on. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing still at 6:07 PM. Oh,
Yeah, he was up.
okay. You don't mind, sir, we'll give a little test to make sure that that's working.
There you go.
All right.
Okay, I live at, my name's Rich Newingen. I live at 7676 West Stonewood Circle, which is actually right across the street from Croatian Park. With lighting, additional lighting at the park, I do have a question as far as what's the city going to do as far as limits as how long those lights stay on. I live, like I said, across the street, and the soccer light field that they currently have multiple times this past summer was on all night long. You wake up at 2, 3 in the morning and they have the soccer lights still on and nobody there. So is there any kind of limits to lights being on, because it is right across the street from Stonewood subdivision and it is disruptive.
Well, what we'll do is we'll answer that after we close the public hearing. That'll be one question that'll be asked to the, either our staff or the vendor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one else, it is 6:09. We'll close the public hearing. Is the applicant here? Could maybe one of you come up and have a seat here, or one or both? Or 3? But we'll go right at the table here, please. So you'll be here because, yeah, just pull them up. Excellent. Yeah, right at the main table. It makes it easier. So, and then I'll introduce you, basically, introduce yourselves, name and business address. Speak real close into this, and just want you to go 1, 2, 3, and then we'll start asking questions and get this thing rolling.
Freddie Janney, Croatian Eagle Soccer Club, 9100 South 76th Street.
Perfect.
Tim Lynch, Lynch & Associates, 440 Milwaukee Street, Burlington, Wisconsin.
Matt Sarich, Croatian Eagle Soccer Club, 9100 South 76th Street, treasurer and officer for the club.
Excellent. Good evening and welcome. So why don't we start with handling that question. Marion, would you like to answer that, or?
Sure. So this application, they're currently on hold for a minor site plan amendment application for these lights to allow for the lighting. In general, the lighting complies with the requirements of the UDO outside of this issue with it being in the wetland setback. And we issued a conditional approval for the other lighting that's not in the setback already with a time limitation of 10 p.m.
Time limitation of 10 p.m. So let's say you live across the street And it would drive me bonkers. If it's 2 or 3 in the morning and this light's coming in my window, I would start to hate soccer. So what are we doing if that's the case? Because before you answer that, I know one of the things that we did that really helped neighbors and such was having those visors or those angles that keep the light from projecting outward. Your thoughts, Ms. X?
So again, the lighting plan itself is subject to that minor site plan amendment
Okay.
review. They have a shielded light, which does not allow for light encroachment over the property line. And that is the
Excellent.
standard of our zoning. So,
Okay, that should, sir, address that, because that would drive me insane. Well, I mean, I love the plan, I love everything, but you know, it's always those small things that can take away the greatness of something is that. I'm gonna open it up now, Mr. Leon. Oh, okay, Mr. Haley, Commissioner
you.
Specht.
No question, just a comment, a suggestion. Be careful with the excavate from the light poles that it ends up in non-protected areas. There's often a tendency to just scatter that stuff. It needs to go elsewhere on site that's not protected.
Commissioner Specht?
Sorry, I can't talk very loud. Does your existing lighting have some type of timer on it? Or the shields that Marion was referring to? Because if this homeowner is having issues now, or is there anything different with the new installation that will reduce that impact?
Yeah, the new lighting is new LED lighting. The new lighting is a new LED lighting with the full cutoffs.
Bring it right towards you, please. Thank you.
With the full cutoffs. So there should be no light pollution from the new standards in this area. Also, elevation-wise, these are kind of set down and set back from the roadway, so there's no real chance of light pollution. The only area that's close to us near the new proposed lighting is the new Carmex facility, which is well lit itself.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, is there a motion, please?
A motion to recommend approval of the standards, findings, and decision of the City of Franklin Common Council upon the application of Croatian Eagles Soccer Club applicant for a special exception to certain natural resource provisions of the City of Franklin Unified Development Ordinance for Croatian Eagles Soccer Club applicant.
So moved.
Second?
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to item D as in David, citizen. We'll move on to D as in David, citizen comment period. Citizens may comment upon the business matters and items set forth on this meeting agenda, and there are 2. So at this point, anybody wishing to speak on any of those 2, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Seeing no one else wants to speak. All right, close citizen comment period. Moving on to E as in Edward number 1. Mr. Martinez, you want me to just read it, the first part?
Yes, please.
All right. M&J Kruger Trucking Services LLC Site Plan Amendment. After the fact application to resolve an open enforcement case, EN 23-0241. Specifically unpermitted filling for an outdoor storage area encroaching into the flood fringe district, FF, and an unpermitted accessory building upon property located at 6705 West Ryan Road, tax key number 898-999-000. Mr. Martinez.
Good evening. Thank you. This is a site plan amendment application that was submitted to kind of resolve an open enforcement case. Okay.
You need a pointer, don't you?
Yeah. I got one here.
Can't even see that.
Yeah. As you mentioned, Mayor, one of the violations is an unpermitted metal building located here. And also the outdoor storage area that was also unpermitted. And encroachment into the adjacent property that is owned by Milwaukee County. This is the aerial for 2022. The violation was discovered in 2023, and this is the situation, the area from last year. As we can notice in the area, the building was moved, so it's now in compliance with the setback requirement. All the storage area was kind of placed out of the property owned by Milwaukee County, and the owner received a letter from Milwaukee County for the closure of the violation. And for the encroachments into the flood fringe, the applicant submitted a floodplain land use permit and also an hydrological analysis prepared by an engineer attesting that the existing situation is not affecting the regional flood heights. This is the zoning map that shows the floodway zoning here in this corner and the floodplain conservancy in this corner that cannot be used for outdoor storage. Oh, sorry. This is kind of to explain the floodplain regulations. So this is kind of a graphic here, a cross section of a natural floodplain. So if unpermitted fill is placed, that may impact the regional flood heights and increase the bay flood elevation. That's why our ordinance protect this area and require the submittal of an hydrological analysis to attest that any improvement will not increase the regional flood elevation. This is a site plan submitted by the applicant. It's hard to see, but there is a detail here that kind of shows the areas that are like flood fringe or floodway, and kind of that will be the setback for the outdoor storage area. So we don't have any encroachment like a trailer or a structure into the flood fringe area. Okay, so just a note here, this application was submitted by the previous property owner, and the current property owner has been working with the staff to resolve this violation. Staff recommends approval of this application.
Can you say that again?
Staff is recommending approval of the application. However, in the report, staff recommends some additional conditions for the consideration of the Plan Commission. One of the conditions is that the applicants must install a physical barrier, kind of a boulders, post, or a fence to kind of demarcate the boundary of the setbacks and the flood fringe area. So in the future, we don't have encroachment into the flood fringe area. The applicant comments that confirm that they're willing to comply with that condition. The other condition recommending by staff is a conservation easement. It's a legal instrument between the city and the owner to protect the flood fringe area. It's my understanding that the applicant is considering this option. If you have a decision, when I finish the presentation. And the last recommendation is the installation of a fence between the outdoor storage area and the property to the west that is zone R8. That is a requirement of the UDO, that installation of a fence between kind of outdoor storage area and residential district. However, the applicant is considering purchasing the adjacent property, and they're requesting to not have that condition. That's my presentation, and the applicant may add.
If one of you could come up here, please, or two, we just had three, so why not? And go up here and just put that real close to you, and just good evening, and just state your name and business address for the record, please.
Karen Krieger, 6705 West Ryan Road, Franklin, Wisconsin. I do want to say that we have already purchased that property next door, and we will be moving forward to possibly do a zoning for commercial.
Wow, good for you. Very
Thank
nice. And you're okay with everything that's discussed by Mr. Martinez?
Yes, I was wondering if, since we did purchase that property, if it's okay to leave that fencing portion out of it.
Yes.
We can
up
make
to
an
the-
amended
to the
motion.
Plan Commission. Yeah. Well, these additional conditions are not in the resolution. So.
Okay.
What,
I guess if we had a motion, would, Mr. Leon,
I think I've got it, as long as there are no other questions.
Mr. Haley first?
Well, the one I was going to ask was about this because we would need to actually change the zoning on the adjacent property. So I believe that would be the condition we're looking for, is that in lieu of installing a fence, the zoning on the residential property would change.
We are looking to apply for commercial zoning on that.
Right, otherwise it's still a residential district.
Today,
Just be
currently.
correct, and just because they purchase it doesn't change that zoning.
Hmm.
And so the condition then would be that they would not have to install the fence if in fact they own the property and get the property rezoned.
I think I got it.
But one other thing, the restoration. I understand all the material's been removed from the areas where it's not supposed to be. The plans do show a silt fence that was installed in there. My question is that silt fence still there? Okay, so the silt fence has been removed, those areas have been restored, and there's vegetation growing on them. What we need to make sure of. Thank you.
With respect.
Okay.
Mr. Leon?
So I move that, make sure I got the terminology right. The applicant be permitted to have the outdoor storage area maybe I don't have it. I don't have the beginning part of it because of the
I know who we can ask.
open enforcement piece. Yeah, Mr. City Attorney, I could use some help here with the beginning of it.
Why don't you read the motion?
Yeah. A motion to adopt a resolution amending the site plan for property located at 7505, sorry. A motion to adopt a resolution amending the site plan for a property located at 6705 West Ryan Road to allow for after-the-fact outdoor storage and accessory building.
Thank you. With the condition that, I would move that, with the condition that staff recommendation that the applicant must install physical barriers to demarcate the outdoor storage area and avoid future encroachments into flood-prone areas within 12 months from the date of approval of the site plan, as well as the staff's recommendation that the applicant submit a conservation easement to protect flood-prone areas, flood fringe, FC and FW zoning for Common Council review and appeal. And then if that easement is approved by the Common Council, the applicant must record the easement.
Appeal or approval, sir?
The applicant must record the easement document with Milwaukee County Register of Deeds.
You meant approved by the council, not appealed by the.
Is that, I said appeal, I did mean approved. And then that the applicant must apply for rezoning to the adjacent property to the west that they have recently purchased within 12 months from the date of approval. That's my motion.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Further discussion by Mr. City Attorney, if you could hit his button regularly.
On that last, the last part of the motion, perhaps it should be, shall not be required to install a fence on the west border adjoining a residential property if the subject west property is rezoned within 18 months.
I'm amenable to that.
Agree.
Okay, we've got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Now we move on to the one.
Now, thank you.
Thank you.
And wait,
Thank
no,
you.
for this.
I bet you have. Oh, boy. All right. So now we'll move on to E2. Mr. Martinez, want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Plan Commission membership, UDO text amendment, an ordinance to amend 15-10.0102 membership of the Unified Development Ordinance UDO to change the Plan Commission membership to remove the city engineer member and in place thereof provide an alderperson to serve on the Plan Commission, the City of Franklin applicant. The Plan Commission held a public hearing for this item December 19, 2024. And we'll start with this. Madam from Grave, could you please step up to the table? Just hang out with us because you're going to be part of this conversation. All right, so I'll start, and I'm sure this is, so last time we discussed this, debated it, and voted on it, but apparently we didn't have a proper motion? Is that how this is now back to us?
Yeah, correct.
Two members not here? That's not good. Okay, what happened?
Yeah, the commission entered into a roll call vote, but there was no a motion or a second.
So because I'm going to take responsibility because it was kept this heated back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, I thought we had everything going. We did a roll call, but nobody caught the fact that there was no motion. So now we'll start the discussion. I don't know what more we could discuss other than the fact that we will have a member from engineering here. If you go on a list, state your name, please, your business address, and your actual title or position with the agency.
I'm not sure. Caitlin Hansel with City of Franklin Engineering Department, address 9229
Well,
West.
you're with Grave.
I am.
You work for Grave. So my point was,
Yes.
is I understand what you're assigned here for. I don't mean to be curt, but you work for Grave. You work for Grave, so Grave is now managing our projects. So like I said, somebody from Grave will be here, and that would be you or Mike
Yes.
Poulos, or somebody from the Grave firm would be here that would be representing engineering at our plan commission meetings. And that's what we're looking for. So just state again, real like, give it.
Okay. Caitlin Hansel with Grafe. I don't know the address on top of my head of
As long as
Grafe.
they give you a paycheck, I get it.
Okay. Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
And what is your title? What is your trained title, profession?
Civil engineer.
Okay, excellent. So now, where's her microphone? So, hey, that's fine, Marion. Excellent, Marion. Good job. So, I don't want to belabor this, so Mr. Leone, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Hensel, for coming tonight. My objection to this remains the same, that I believe that the city engineer should be a voting member of this body based not only on their ability to provide subject matter expertise, which I have no doubt Ms. Hensel can do, but that as a member of the city staff, that they should have a vote on applications for planning. The one question that I would have, and I think it's probably on everyone's mind, is, Mr. City Attorney, for a motion to pass, you need 4 votes favorable?
Yes.
Okay. So I am still a no. So math for Marines tells me that that's 3-1 tonight.
And my argument will state, look at the problems we're having. We don't have enough to make adequate votes. So now we've got 2 people gone, could have had another elected here, would have been fine, things move forward. And now we're back again because we had a flaw in why there was no proper motion made, and here we are. So what's going to happen is this is probably, I'm not going to predict, because I'll be voting, so then this will move forward to council, right? With the explanation of how this turned out. Because I thought last time we were done. And I guess shame on me, shame on the city attorney for not catching
And
the
the
fact. And I'm Regulo. We love Regulo. We never blame him for anything. Big fan of Regulo. And now here we are. So, all right, Mr. Martinez,
So-
could you please make the motion? Oh, Mr. Leon,
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. So who caught it?
When we were working on the minutes.
Okay, so staff caught it. And then, so obviously can proceed with a vote, but Mr. City Attorney, can we make a recommendation? So if it's 3-1, it still doesn't have 4 votes in either direction. Can we make a recommendation to council with 3 votes in favor, or does it just not move forward again?
It is a vote that did not pass.
Okay. So as
but
long as,
it's still, and Mr. Planning Manager, you can correct me if you're aware of something in the code, but to me, if it's a 3-1 to 3 absent or not in office, it doesn't pass. If it was 4-3 opposed, it wouldn't pass. It would still go to the Common Council, and the Common Council makes a decision. So a 3-1 vote, hypothetically, does not recommend approval, does not recommend denial, but the matter still goes to the Common Council, and the council makes a decision on it.
Yeah, that is correct.
With an explanation, if there's how this went down and why. So it's more, and we'll talk about that. I just want to make sure it's on record that, okay, after we do the vote, just to make sure that how that's explained, so there's background that it did pass, but didn't have that vital motion. So could you please read the motion, sir?
A motion to recommend approval of an ordinance to amend Section 1510-0102 membership of the Unified Development Ordinance UDO to change the Plan Commission membership, to remove the city engineer member and in place thereof provide an elder person to serve on the Plan Commission and authorize staff to amend the Plan Commission administrative procedures and regulations if this ordinance is adopted.
Is there a motion?
May I have a sidebar?
I don't know if we, Mr. City Attorney, get his button so it, can we hit his
When
button?
was the last time I heard anything about a sidebar? What's a
I don't know.
sidebar?
19,
I have a question.
Well, go ahead with a question.
I didn't hear what the arguments were on either way. And I
Oh.
don't want to bring you back into doing this. So I feel like I need to abstain,
oh boy.
which I think will cause you problems. But I just need to
What?
understand what the problems would cause you.
Okay, how about this? Do you want, we can talk about this again. I just don't want to spend an hour on it, and if it's going to fail, then whatever. Honestly, I'm to that point. So,
3-minute quick summary of what.
go ahead, you start, Mr. Leone.
Thank you, Mayor. So I don't think it'll take 3 minutes. Effectively, I believe that when this board was created, or at whatever point the city engineer was added to this board, it was done with the intent that not only would they provide staff input like we get from planning, like we get from other departments, but that they would be a voting member of this board. I believe that's appropriate considering what we do where we're planning for the use of land. I frequently in my, between 2 different tenures on this commission, we'll call it 8 years on this body, I have gotten a lot of good insight from the city engineer that has helped shape how I voted, how I've made recommendations to change applications, and I believe that they are able to avoid any perceptions of being influenced by the mayor, who, of course, is the executive and is their boss. So while there can be, for some, that perception, I believe it's not concerning enough to remove them from this body.
I have 2 questions. Well, is Grave going to be our permanent engineer service? Or is this a temporary?
Okay. Well, all right, why don't you ask your 2, and then, because they may be answered in my rebuttal to what Mr. Leone just said.
And planning is as much of a representative, and they aren't providing a vote on this. So as long as we're having engineering here with the same opportunity to provide us information and guidance, that's what I want to confirm.
Okay. Okay, so my argument last meeting was, as an alderman for 6 years, I never liked the fact that the city engineer who sat right here, answered to the mayor, had a voting position. Didn't like the optics, not at all. And we have finance committee that's got 3 electeds on it, okay? Very important. Personnel had 3, now they're down to 2. We just made that change, had 3. We did this, and I wanted to bring in another elected, replacing the city engineer as a voting member, because there's also more culpability for an elected to be on here, because they answer to constituents, so there's no perception of, oh, the city engineer votes the way the mayor does, and that's how it went. That's how it went for decades and decades and decades, that he will say, because why would that person be on there? I didn't like it personally as an alderman, and I wanted to change that as the mayor. Now I have my opportunity to do so. Now, one thing I assured Mr. Leone of, and the rest of the commission, is that there will be a member of GRAFE here. So there will be an engineering personnel from GRAFE that represents the project scopes of of everything that we're dealing with. GRAFE is managing and overseeing. So we're going to have that input that you're looking for. You're going to have that, but you're not going to have a voting member. I think it makes more sense to have another alder on here to make that decision, and to be, because I'll tell you one thing, and I'll go down another pathway, why not, is when you've got all that goes on here in Plan Commission, and you've got one elected to come back and or share or give concept, they're missing it. They're missing a lot. And the last couple that were put on were handpicked by the mayor, okay? My predecessor had his own people that were here. You had Mark D'Andrea, moving forward, Sherry Hanneman. You had these people that were on there. Now I want to put 2 on. So you're going to have more than one perspective. Because on the council, there's 6 aldermanic representatives. I'm saying this not for you, for anybody listening. 6 aldermanic representatives. It's great to have more than one perspective. Because if I talk to planning, I'm going to get a wonderful answer. It's going to be right down the line, but I'm going to get that. Now I'm going to be trying to tell others or decipher. It's like, it's much better off to have a second elected up here. Why do we have 3 on finance? Because it's that important. Why did we have 3 on personnel before Act 10? Because it was that important. And now we're making the adjustments, and I think this is the time. It's the right thing to do, and it's the most probably transparent you can get to have more than one elected on the board. Kelly, you've been waiting. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I think it's more than just that staff member answers to the mayor and also votes. I think there's that perceived or real conflict of interest. You have a staff member who is essentially reviewing proposals and what have you. They're identifying where to go out for bids, who's going to be working on a job, and then you're also asking them to make a vote on that. That is a direct conflict of interest, in my opinion.
I agree with our director of administration for those listening at home. And I just think that now's the time, and that's the most, in my opinion, the most transparent, the most upfront, forward way to get business done up here. And by having 2 electeds up here, it makes the most sense. And now we have the ability to make that change. You still have got the floor then, Mr. Haley.
Is GRAFE our permanent engineer now?
Okay, so GRAFE right now is handling all the projects. When you say, are they our permanent engineer? They are our engineer moving forward at this point for projects. Kelly is overseeing day-to-day operations for now. The search is still out there, but
We don't have a plan, but this is the plan for now.
well, we have a plan. This is the plan, which I believe makes the most sense. GRAFE has come in, oversaw it. I mean, Kelly put together, was that 2 council meetings ago, all the projects that they're dealing with. I mean, the list is unbelievable. So they're doing a great job, but it makes the most sense. They also have other municipalities that they represent. So I believe it's not only the most cost-effective thing right now, it's also they have many, many hats to wear that we don't have, and we had to go outward anyway.
Yeah, I can elaborate on that a little bit, in that we have the opportunity to have access to countless experts and resources through GRAFE. Then we would be able to get through to personnel staff as city attorney and engineer and assistant city engineer. And the other piece of it is hiring for that position and the assistant position. It's everybody is fighting over the same few people.
And so we'll always have someone here I'm grateful for every meeting.
And that's what I said last meeting, is that we would have representation here. I confirmed that with Mike Paulos, and that's the plan moving forward. So yes, and that's why she's here tonight.
Yeah, so basically it'll be Mike or myself.
So we'll have that continuity of seeing one or the other here. And that's why I think right now we are positioned properly to execute this decision. You good for now? Okay, Mr. Haley and Mr. Leone
Thank you.
for
A lot
final.
of great points are being made here. Something that's always troubled me is that we are all residents of the city of Franklin. City of Engineer is not required to be. So we've got a situation where someone who has no vested interest in the well-being of this community other than his paycheck is in a voting position.
That's an exceptional point.
That avoids it.
And this would also be the only board that would have any staff member voting on it out of all of the boards and commissions, committees that
That's a
we have.
huge point. Could you state that again, that this is the only board or commission that has an employee of the city voting in it?
Correct. This is, the Plan Commission has been historically the only board, committee, commission that we have that has a voting staff member.
Thank you, Mr. Leone.
Thank you, Mayor. It won't surprise you, I remain unconvinced. I understand the perspective on all of that, and I do want to reiterate, this is not a reflection of Grace or certainly Ms. Hensel. This is, I believe, the design of this board intended to have the city engineer, and that, in fact, they bring a level of objectivity to it by not necessarily being a resident of Franklin, right? So it may or may not be in their interest, right? There are multiple perspectives to have it. I believe that this is a permanent solution, right? I mean, I know we could go back and reverse it at some point, but without doing that, it is a permanent solution that I don't believe is appropriate to a temporary issue, right? There is a hiring process involved for any statutory city staff department, so city engineer and assistant city engineer. So at some point, we will have a city engineer again, likely, and that I believe that when that happens, they should be back here as a voting member of the board. But I mean, we see it from different perspectives. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I just think that the best way is to keep it as is. I realize I'm probably a minority of one on this. I'm willing to go forward with a properly motioned
Right.
and call the roll after that motion has happened.
Can I ask you one question? What other jurisdictions, if you know, because I know the answer, are other jurisdictions does Grafe handle engineering services for?
Specifically, which other ones you're asking? Or are there?
Specifically, just throw some cities out there,
Okay.
like ones that like
Muskego.
Muskego, I was gonna say. Okay, keep going.
Muskego. We do engineering services for Wauwatosa, Cudahy,
Germantown.
Germantown.
Thank you. Commissioner Speck?
And this is engineering services, not city engineer position, correct?
I would say the municipality that represents mostly what we do here is probably City of Muskego. The other municipalities we do work in, but we're not their city engineer.
And
acting
Scott
city engineer.
Krieger was the city engineer.
He's not the city engineer. He is the director or superintendent. He is, I believe, the director of public works. He's not.
He's an
the c-
engineer.
He is, but the acting city engineer is Mike Paulus at Muskego.
And Mike Paulus is the one that would be coming here representing Grafe.
Correct.
And there is a direct connection with Mr. Paulus.
I'd like to make a point of clarification. Mike Paulos, anytime he is here, is representing the city of Franklin. And that is due to our agreement with Mike Paulos and Grafe, as is Caitlin.
Thank you for that. And before we go to Mr. Leone, I mean, my whole plan and scope was what's going to best represent the city of Franklin in the most transparent, fair and equitable manner and how we move things forward, because this is an extremely important board, extremely. And everything big and everything small seems to start here that affects the residents, developments, everything comes through plan. And that's why the big push for me was to get another elected on here, because this is way too much for one hand-picked elected that's going to get the whole scoop of what all goes on here. Mr. Leon.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the point of clarification, Madam Director of Administration. My own point of clarification, there are 2 elected members already on this. One is the chair, and although not a voting member unless they are affecting the outcome, they are at council. You are, or whomever is in that seat are at council at the following meeting when these recommendations come up. So we do already have 2. Question I have, really for anybody who can answer, gave the examples of Muskego, Germantown. I think there was one other.
Tosa.
Thank you, Wauwatosa.
Yeah.
In any of those municipalities, do we know if the city engineer or the equivalent position is a member of their plan commission or the equivalent body? We probably don't know, but maybe staff has some insights on that. But in communities where Grafe or any other consulting firm for that matter are providing engineering services, is the city engineer a member, a voting member of their plan commission or equivalent?
Please.
I'll answer for Muskego specifically, since Mike Paulus is a city engineer. He is not a voting member on the planning commission there.
Thank you. And of the other 3 that you mentioned, I mean, I could get that information with a phone call tomorrow if they're voting members, but I believe they are not, because I thought that we did that research prior to this and that no other jurisdiction had a voting member that had engineers, that the only voting members were members of that board or commission. But again, I could fact check and get that back if that's the way to go, because I guess when I look at this as we are Franklin residents, and, you know, we want the best for the community. And if I don't have, in my opinion right now, the trust of Mr. Leon, who I have a great deal of respect for, that doesn't have the trust that this is the right thing for the city, then I'd like to ask what he would require or want to have his trust. And if that would be one of the things to say that these other jurisdictions don't have voting members that are city engineers, I think that's going down that pathway.
Thank you, Mayor. This isn't about trust. This is just about how I think this body should go forward. There's no question of intent or anything like that. I just believe that the city engineer belongs there. I'm okay with moving forward. I thought I lost this vote 3 weeks ago almost now.
I laughed.
Yeah, apparently it wasn't a valid vote. So, yeah, all my perspective is the same at this point. I'm not convinced, despite some fair points. I just think that it was the design and it was proper to have the city engineer on here. So I'm not going to make the motion, certainly, but I think we're at a point, unless someone else disagrees, that we can move forward with this. And I promise I won't even come to council and speak out against it.
You can.
I can.
I encourage you.
Yeah, so.
All right, so Mr. Martinez did read the motion. We do not have a first or a second yet. Now, Mr. City Attorney, because I have a question for him too. Sir?
Question?
May I make the motion, since I'm a voting member? Or do we need to go to the 8 ball again?
I'd have to look through my reference materials here for,
We'll go to the 8
I was just going to say, and one alternative is you can put it over to the next meeting if somebody so chooses. But I can look through my reference materials unless somebody else makes the motion.
This is very likely. So, well, why don't we, 'cause I guess that this is the thing, is we are getting to the point we need to have that extra person because we have quorum issues. We absolutely have quorum issues. So we need to have that other voter on here, and as soon as possible, and this could go then to the 21st council meeting, and then basically be the 23rd, or the, right? 22nd, 23rd of January is the next one, plan commission meeting.
Isn't council.
Right, but it needs to be the new.
It would have to go to the council on
For
the
the appointment.
21st for approval, if it made it, and then effective the 23rd, that next person would be on it.
Right, but the new member will need to be appointed by the council. Well, confirmed, appointed by mayor, confirmed by the council.
Confirmed, so now we're dragging it out even further.
So would we be able to have the confirmation of a new member based upon the approval of the council? So have it set up where this is a item G1, if you will, and then item G2 is to confirm the appointment.
That sound right, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes. Contingent on.
Okay, now going back, can I make that motion then? Oh, Mr. Haley.
I'd like to make the motion that the Plan Commission recommends approval of the attached ordinance to the council.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a first and a second. Mr. Martinez, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Haley,
Aye.
Commissioner Leon,
No.
Commissioner Hecht.
Aye.
So we've got 3 ayes, 1 no, 2 absent,
One vacant.
1 vacant. And now this will move forward. The motion fails, but it moves forward to council. Is that correct, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes.
All right. Thank you all for your patience on this. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are now adjourned. Can you take us off the live wire?